The MTDCNC podcast, sponsored by Langley Alloys, unique metals for demanding applications, providing first-class performance and an international service.
Hello and welcome to this week's MTDCNC podcast. And today in the studio, I'm here with Matt Jenness from MicroLoc, and we're going to find out all about where MicroLoc started and Matt's journey on where he is today. So, Matt, before we get into this, tell us a bit about yourself. Where did it all begin?
Well, I grew up in a North Bedfordshire village. My father was an engineer, had his own engineering business. He was a subcontract engineer back in the 1980s. I remember going in there after school and helping him out under, loading parts up and putting the machine. I think he paid me 75p an hour, I seem to remember. But that would have been the sort of mid-80s, I guess. And then I did A-levels and stuff, and then I started working with my dad in the sort of mid to late 90s, mid-90s. I started up on the shop floor. I always wanted to go into the sort of business side and sales side. I never really saw myself on the shop floor all my life. But of course my dad wouldn't let me go anywhere near selling or doing it until I'd sort of earned my stripes, as it were. So I did everything for at least a year, probably 18 months. I started up with sawing metal and deburring and cleaning, and I did everything. I had to do a bit of everything before he'd let me loose on the machines.
So how did MicroLoc get started? What's the journey of MicroLoc?
Again, it's my father's journey, really. He was a subcontract engineering company, as I said. It was a small company, only 3 of them, a partnership, and he did a lot of subcontract work for a company called Texas Instruments, who are based in Bedford. Now, but basically, overnight they shipped everything to the Far East, and so my dad pretty much lost. Well, he lost about 80% of his work overnight. But what he had done over the few years prior to that, he'd designed this Workholding system for his own requirements. So for him, he wanted a Workholding system that was accurate and repeatable, that would hold parts in known date and positions, and he wanted, rather than have 1 vice or 2 vices on a machine, he wanted to hold 10 parts or 12 parts or 16 parts on his machine. So he could utilise the machine better, get longer running times. If you've got a part that's got a 5-minute time cycle, by putting 10 on, you're suddenly going to get 50 minutes that he could leave the machine and run another machine or run the lathe, and so that's where it all came from. Now what happened was he sold a few of these to his friends in the industry, a few people that had come and seen it and thought, can you make me one, that sort of thing. And then in 1994, Micron Workholding Limited, the MicroLoc was formed, and that was a limited company with my dad and my cousin John, and so they started the company in 1994. I joined in 96.
So it's come a long way in such a short period of time, but it's great to hear that it all stemmed from an engineer who needed something you couldn't buy, so he made it himself.
Exactly, that's exactly how it started, and he found, even back then, there wasn't anything on the market that would do what he wanted to do. Yes, there was vices and double acting vices and a lot of German vices that were very expensive. And so he designed the MicroLoc grid and the fixed jaws and the vice jaws from that. And the system still works in pretty much the same way that he invented it to work. But obviously we've moved it along over the years, invented new things. In the mid-2000s, we brought a hydraulic version of MicroLoc out, which is again for your medium to large batch productions, and so we sell quite a lot of that too now. So we have moved and evolved over the years. And then we went on to sort of 2008 and the crash, the banking crisis, and there was a dip in MicroLoc. You know, we struggled for a bit, like everyone did, and that's when we started to think of maybe selling other products to complement the MicroLoc range. So that's when we started selling 0-point systems and high precision chucks and this sort of thing. So I wanted to broaden the horizons really. So the way I saw we could grow MicroLoc was we had to sell more MicroLoc overseas, and we had to import other products to complement MicroLoc in the UK. And that's kind of how we grew our business over the years.
But it's great to hear how MicroLoc started in the UK.
Yeah.
And it's where it's always been. It's like we spoke before this, and it's designed, it's made, everything on that MicroLoc system is manufactured here in the UK. So really that for a customer must give them a lot of confidence in you guys as well.
Well, I'd like to think so. But also with MicroLoc, because the base plates tend to be tailor-made to suit your machine. You know, if you wanted to get an American product that made to suit your machine, you're looking at 3-4 months deliveries and stuff like that. With MicroLoc, we hold quite a large amount of raw material in stock, which we can turn into MicroLoc fairly quickly. So one of our main advantages, I think, against the competitors is that we can tailor-make your work-holding system to suit you in a short amount of time, which you just can't do that if you're buying or importing from the Far East or America.
Now, I want to carry on and go into more about MicroLoc and the other systems you sell, but I just want to nip back quickly and talk a bit more about you, because there was something you said a minute ago and it really struck me, is you always wanted to go into sales, and that's quite strange to hear, because a lot of people would be like, I want to get on the machines, I want to do all the cutting, I want to do the designing. But where did this thought come from that you wanted to be out on the road?
Well, probably, you know, I guess I didn't really see myself on the tools. I wasn't one of these guys that grew up wanting to be an engineer, you know. I grew up wanting to earn money. I was, I guess, motivated by money more than I was motivated by becoming an engineer. I'd seen my dad be an engineer. I'd seen him always mucky, always dirty, always, you know. I wanted to get on the road more. I wanted to sell. I was always good at communicating with people in social environments and things like that. So I guess it's just sales was something I always wanted to go into, and because that's what I like doing. I like going out, visiting customers and solving their problems.
So was that sort of, your dad was there, your dad was on the tools, your dad was designing and making the products, you were out selling this.
Yeah.
But now your dad's retired.
Yeah.
Which means, does all MicroLoc now fall on you? Are you the guy that is in? Let's call it. You're in charge. You're overseeing everything.
Yeah.
And you're making sure the business is going in the direction you always wanted it to go in.
Yes. I mean, my dad's 84 now. He still comes into the office probably once a week.
Brilliant.
Just to see what I'm doing more than anything.
Just to keep tabs and make sure you're doing it right.
Exactly, and he tends to leave me alone. On the engineering side, I had a guy join me in 1998, I think it was, as just a machinist. Clever guy, worked really hard. John Fossey, his name is, and really he has taken over the role of what my father had done. So he tends to run the factory, he tends to run the engineering side, and I run the business side, and we work very well as a team. About 5 or 6 years ago, I made him a director and a shareholder in the business to keep hold of him, and you know, without him I would really struggle, but he is now the engineer behind the product. I do some of the design, and I do all the sales and the marketing, but yeah, he's the engineering brains now, I would say.
That must take quite a bit of stress off you though, to be able to concentrate on just one side of the business and know the other side's in good hands? Because I know you were saying you haven't got a really quick staff turnover. A lot of your staff come and stay.
They do, and it's what I was saying earlier. We haven't had someone leave for probably 15 years, and people that come tend to, I look after my staff. They're well paid. They have a good work environment. We're kind of in the middle of nowhere, so it's quite nice. You've got sort of, a lot of nature around you as such. You can go for a walk at lunchtime, and it's good. I take my dog to work sometimes. I walk him up the old airfield and stuff. So it's a nice place to work. It's a nice environment, and they seem to enjoy working there. Yeah. So why would you leave, really?
Well, that's it. But it's great to hear that you've got staff that are just there for so long, because I think this is an industry problem.
It definitely is.
You get a lot of people. You get a lot of companies with real quick turnaround. A lot of staff in and out, and it's great to hear the other side of that, where you can keep your staff.
Yeah.
Now, tell us about, or talk us through some of the other products you do, because obviously we spoke about the MicroLoc system. We've done a great little exclusive offer today, which looking forward to getting that out.
The Kit 75 offer. That's we'll get through them. I better make some more of them, I think.
Better get that ready, I think.
Yeah.
Now, what other products do you do apart from MicroLoc? Because you actually sell more work-holding solutions, so you've got a solution for everybody.
We have. So we sell 0-point systems. That started in around 2008 and 9, as I mentioned earlier. We do 0-point systems, and again, we either buy in the system completely made, or we buy in the cylinders and we make that as well. So we'll make the 0-point fixture and just buy the 0-point cylinders themselves and fit them into a fixture. So we can do them in cubes, in base plates. Again, we're flexible. We can do. I've done one recently where we made a lot of single base plates, and we sort of wired them together with pneumatic pipe, and we had a sort of 3 metre by 2 metre 0-point fixture, but only using small fixtures and piping them pneumatically up together. So this guy wanted to lift. He had these great big fixtures he wanted to put on that were 2 metres long. So we had a lot of the different 0-point plugs underneath, and he'd crane them on the fixture and crane them off. So the idea obviously was that he could turn around jobs. He'd set the job up offline on the fixture, and then just bring the fixture and drop it on the machine and take it off. So it saved him so much time. He said it paid for the system, or it was going to pay for the system in literally 3 or 4 months.
Now that must be quite an interesting part of your job, though, to come up with these solutions that, and we'll go into this a little bit later because there is some products I want to talk about, but this must be really a fun part of your job, is coming up with solutions to problems other people haven't thought about.
Exactly, that's the part of my job I really love. If I can save someone money and time, if I can save them a lot of time by just educating them a bit about where they're going wrong, what they're doing. You still go to places and they've got this lovely machine, they've just spent 100 grand, 150 grand on this machine, and they've got this 20-year-old rusty vice sat in the middle of it holding one part. You still see it today. It's amazing, but there's so many different things you can do. You can have the MicroLoc, you can have a 0-point, you can have automation, you can have pneumatic vices. You can have so many different things. Why would you just buy that new machine and then just stick that rusty old vice in the middle? But you'd be amazed how often I still see that.
Well, this actually brings me back to another point again. Bringing it back to you is obviously you go into a lot of companies and help them with solutions. But as we found out earlier, you started the sales game quite early on in your career.
Yeah.
Where we don't like to say it, but back then it was an older man's game.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah.
So what sort of reception did you get when they're used to this gentleman in his full grey suit with his
grey
briefcase?
suit and his briefcase. Yeah, when this young sort of 25-year-old turns up.
What's the saying?
With an earring. I had an earring at the time as well.
This little whippersnapper turned up with his earring.
With his earring, yeah. My daughters made me get rid of that. I didn't have the experience, but what I made up with was enthusiasm, and I just wanted to succeed. I wanted to sell. I wanted to get in places and speak to people. So, all right, I'm a bit more laid back now, maybe. I did a lot more cold calling back in the day, but you can't really do that anymore. But in the old days, in the sort of late 90s, you know, you'd go out on the road, you'd be knocking on doors. You can't do it anymore because it doesn't get you anywhere.
You can't get past the receptionist.
You can't get past reception. And plus, you know, it's so expensive to travel now. And that's why things like MTD are good, you know, because it's another medium of us showing our products to the user without having to knock on hundreds of doors every day and get told to bugger off. So, yeah, oh, you better cut that. So. And so yeah, it has changed. But you know, I was young then and enthusiastic. But yeah, I got pretty good reception most of the time.
Well, they probably like somebody with enthusiasm who came in to help instead of somebody who came in to give advice, not to tell them what to do. Because I don't know why, but like my granddad was an engineer, and I always got so many stories off him, and it was sort of one of the, it was sort of one of the things where people would turn up and say, and just we're a bit more polite these days, where we're like, look, yes, you're doing it okay, but if you try this, where I just think the older generation would have gone in and gone, what are you doing? That's wrong. Yeah. Buy this. Do
you
that.
Have to be diplomatic about it. But yeah, you know, even now, like I said, if you go in and see a Mazak machine tool or something like that with this one rusty vice in the middle, it does drive you a bit crazy sometimes. But yeah, it's about educating the customer. You know, sometimes the customer knows better himself anyway. It's just a matter of showing him what's out there. You know?
I bet sometimes you turn up as well and a customer knows what he wants, but just not how to do it. So I bet I need something to clamp this, I need to clamp it here and there. Yeah. But they don't know what system they need, which is where you come in.
Yeah, yeah, and that's just, you know, going in, seeing what they're doing, what their application is. You know, are you looking at a 0 point? Are you looking at 5-axis vices? Are you looking at MicroLoc, automation? You know, what you're looking at, and then it's working out what's best for them and their application, because every application in every company is different, you know.
And it's always been the same. Now, talking about how every application is different, I never said the same, how every application is different, you've got more work holding under your belt than what people might think. So obviously you've got MicroLoc,
and that's what we're known for.
Which is, and let's be honest, you've been on enough videos now that everybody knows Matt Jenness and MicroLoc.
Mr. MicroLoc, yeah.
But what's the next set of work holding solutions you've got that we've actually seen it today with the chain clamping?
Yeah, the Skubala clamps actually kind of like old-fashioned clamping. It's 50, 60 years old. It's manufactured in France, just outside Paris. Really nice company, a family business. I've been there a few times. They sell MicroLoc in France. That's really how I got to know them, because they sell MicroLoc in France. And I was at an exhibition with them maybe 3 years ago, and I was literally just playing around with their products. It was one of them Mondays at an exhibition where it was quiet, and I was playing around with all these sort of top clamps and chain clamps, and I thought, that's brilliant. Why haven't I seen that before? And of course, I told my dad about it, and he said, oh yeah, I know Skubala, they've been around years. Yeah, we used to have some of that. And you forget that this stuff is actually, but it's good, you know, it's good quality. It's not that expensive. It's very reasonably priced actually, and it's just good work holding for fixturing. You know, if you want to fixture one-offs, two-offs. You need sort of funny top clamps or edge clamps, or
But there was something you said to me earlier, and it's Copal. A lot of 60-odd-year-old machinists who are knocking on the door of retirement will know exactly who they are.
Yeah, they will, yeah.
But yet the 20, 30-year-olds who are coming into it and need that system have no idea they exist. Like the chain clamps.
I know. Well, you'd not seen a chain clamp before, had you?
No, so I've not. I've seen them when you see on videos and stuff, but I'd never actually seen one in person.
Yeah.
Because I always, and again, it's one of them things. I always thought for a chain clamp, you're looking at when you're clamping tubes at like 5-6 meters.
Yeah.
But then you bring in the system there, and you can clamp
Well, you
100
can,
mil.
Yeah.
And look at the advantages of using a chain clamp, of the distribution of the clamping force, and the clamping force is unreal.
Yeah, it's really high, but the good thing is, because it's distributed so equally over the diameter of the workpiece, is that you can even hold tubes and things, and it won't bend the tube because you're not pressing hard in one area.
Which most people will do. They'll put one clamp on top.
Exactly, and they'll squash it. With a chain clamp, you don't do that. So it could be 100, 200, 500 diameter part. You know, if you think a normal 1000 VMC machine, and you wanted to put a few holes in a 800 long by 400 diameter part, how are you going to hold that? Well, the best way to hold that is put a V on the floor, sit it on the V, and then a couple of chains over the top, and you're there.
And the thing is, you look at the space saving for a chain clamp, because your chain's going to go down across the pot and straight down.
Yeah.
Where most of the time you'll see people who are blocking up clamps, having a bar across, so you've got all that extra worry of hitting with the spindle, the tool change, or whatever. So
they're brilliant, and I've sold a lot of them over the last probably 18 months since I've really started sort of showing it and understanding the product myself, so I can sell it. I've sold a lot, and people are really liking it. But it's not new technology; it's been around for years.
But it always seems to
people
be
don't
like
see
that.
it, no.
Because there's the little clamps as well, which you can put onto the bed. Now, to me, that's brilliant, because it gets rid of, again, going back to the worry of hitting a clamp with, if you're machining round and we've all done it, don't get me wrong, where you're machining down and your collets hit the back of the clamp by accident, and if your clamps are right down on the bed, right out the way, it takes another risk out of it.
It does, and again, it all goes back to being flexible in your working and clamping, you know, irregular shapes or funny shapes that you want to get down onto the machine table, and you want a low profile clamp. You need these little odds and sods and bits and bobs to clamp, and that's exactly what they do. They do clamping sets designed for, you know, if you're an engineer start-up company and you want a sort of horizontal clamping set, they've got one of these sets that's got a bit of everything in it. So it's clever. Well,
Matt, it's been great to hear your story from where you started and how MicroLoc's got to where it is today, and the products you've done. So from me and everyone here at MTDCNC, I'd like to say thank you for your time today, and we look forward to seeing where the journey goes and what's next for MicroLoc.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, it's very nice. Thanks for having me here today. It's been really good.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the MTDCNC podcast, sponsored by Langley Alloys, specialists in a wide range of exotic materials for any application for all your engineering needs.